Members, I don't think we quite have everybody back. We won't wait for everybody, but I will wait for a few more minutes. So y'all continue your side conversations. Back to order. We do have one slight thing that I want to confirm before we move forward. We got not very many delegates. We got a few that are lined up to testify, but there's frantic work going on behind the scenes on merging things we've passed with the original document. You can imagine what that's like. It's actually made worse when we get the stuff coming in on text, because getting it put into the document is not clean. And then when we work on the stuff that y'all sent, then that almost confuses it when you get back to putting it in the document. Anyway, long story short, this one item on Rule 42, there was a tiny bit of confusion as to whether it was correct. And so rather than just making a decision, I thought I would, without objection, let y'all take a look at it and then have a quick vote to confirm that this is what you recall we actually passed this piece of it. That's really the only thing we've had an issue with so far. But rather than taking our best guess at our best memory, we wanted you to take a peek at it and confirm it.
Mr. Chairman, Eric OPLSD
Yes, sir.
14. This matches my recollection.
It does
of my
match your
amendment
recollection.
and the amendments to my
Okay,
amendment.
Josh, you had a friendly amendment, if I remember right. Did that get put in there?
Or not, yeah, the or not is not there.
Okay, so the strikeout is correct then.
Correct. I thought there were two, though,
Yeah, I thought there was an "and if so, shall."
but I think that's probably the next section here. Next section.
On the last change on that one? Go back up.
The first or not would was replaced by my language. That's why you think that there were two or
Right,
nots.
right. That was the way we were recalling it too, but yeah.
But I thought in the "and shall disclose the sources" at the end of that paragraph, I thought we said it had an "and if so, shall disclose"
I think that's down in the next
on the
paragraph.
next one down.
Scroll up.
Yeah, like "and comma," or "and comma, if so, comma,
Well,
shall."
see if that's in the part on the bottom.
I think adding, if it was,
Yeah, there it
adding
is.
it's more
Last
Okay,
of that.
so maybe it's just, well, the other one had, when we put it in the last time, it had a comma after, between the "and" and the "if."
First part?
I think either one
I know.
does it.
It was Rachel's
I'm gonna see if I can get one person to
change.
help me just so I go through it, okay? So Leslie, I think was trying to tell me something, unless, did you, what of y'all thought found this?
Yeah, we were, so the "and shall disclose sources of the compensation" should have an "and if."
Yeah, I thought we put the "and if so," "and comma, if so, comma,"
Right there, right there.
both places where it was a weather clause.
That's true.
So is this correct now?
Is that correct?
If so, comma.
Comma.
Yes, somehow.
Just put a comma after "so." Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Everybody agree that now this is correct? Let me
Well-
go to the rest.
Scroll to the next part. I think there was quite as much.
Yeah, that one's missing. I think the comma goes, but instead of between committee and, between "and" and "if."
Virgil likes Oxford. After,
At the very end of the third to last line, it says "and if so." Well, committee, comma, "and if so." I think it's committee and, comma, if so, comma.
okay.
Right here.
Take that comma out. And put it after "and."
Okay.
Got it.
Everybody good? Take a voice vote. All in favor of the language as we've just kind of looked at it yet another time, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you, members. Sorry about that confusion. Just want to make sure we had it right. Okay, if we can have the delegate testimony, we've only got, I think, 2 or 3, but we told them we're going to do it, so we're going to go ahead and do it. Let's just do that.
Okay, Senate District 3, Delegate Clint Stutz.
8:15:06. So you're both from California? No, thanks. Appreciate it. Or Arizona. So, you're in Arizona, actually. They're not on the allotment.
Clint Stutz, SD3. This is on 41. You've already, moved on from that, but I wanted to share my thoughts about it. It just struck me and my county chair as weird that we have to have a man and a woman like that, and if you have a man or just one a particular gender win the chair race, then you disenfranchise that same gender in the vice chair race. That's just stupid and weird. And I would love for us to fight this in the future and get rid of it. I'm not going to quit bringing it up, so you'll see me next time. And that's all I got for you.
Does anybody else want to speak?
Thank you, delegates. Thanks for reminding us of these issues. That is, as I mentioned yesterday, how issues actually get somewhere as they start with one person and they eventually grow or die. We'll now go to Rule 40, I believe it is. Josh?
These are the rules that aren't going to be touched for this biennium.
Mr. Chair?
The blue ones.
Correct.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Rule 41 also has a Virgil amendment. It's to require them to register 10 days before the convention if they want to run.
Oh, right, but wasn't that in the 15 that we adopted, or was that
No,
a separate one?
That was a separate one.
That was a separate one.
Yeah, and you have the language
In 41, you say?
in 41.
In 41.
It's at the end. Number 16.
Can you read that into, so Shane can type it in? We'll go ahead and just go with it.
2-year terms. Kathy will read it. She has it up.
Mr. Chairman, okay, so no person shall be eligible to be elected chairman or vice chairman for more than 4 consecutive 2-year terms to the same office period. Now we start adding a sentence. To be eligible, comma,
No, it's in the wrong place. Yep. It should be after the-
well, that's
Okay,
adopted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so to be eligible, comma, candidates for the office of state chairman or vice chairman shall be required to file a statement of intent to run with the SREC secretary at least 10 TEN parentheses 10 close parentheses days Is he with me? Okay, at least 10 days prior to the first capital G general, capital S session of the capitalized state convention. Both state and convention are capitalized. That's Virgil's amendment.
Thank you, Kathy. Does that reflect it, Kathy, from what you can see? Load up a little bit.
There's no comma after secretary, and he had secretary capitalized, and we want to keep Virgil happy.
Capitalized state chair and vice chair.
General session
What about
of the
capitalizing
state
state chair and
convention.
vice chair?
State chairman and or vice chairman are both capitalized, and there's no dash in vice chairman. Sorry about that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of this Virgil suggested amendment on Rule 41, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, now we'll move to, we can't move to 40, really to 39 or 38. I guess we go to 37, correct? Rule 37, do we have any amendments to Rule 37? Dave's got one. Okay, Dave has an amendment to 37. Do you want to state it verbally and while it's being typed in?
Yes. 37, you can, let me pull that up here. All right, my concern has to do with, I'm trying to get there. All right, my amendment is pretty simple. You see the sentence where it talks about 2/3 vote of the SREC shall be required to deny or approve the appeal of the application. My motion is to remove deny or. That way it would make it 2/3 vote of the SREC shall be required to approve the appeal of an application. The way it's worded there let's say they have a 50-50 vote. Well, they don't have 2/3 to approve it, and they don't have 2/3 to deny it, so I don't know what happens. So if you just take off the deny of, the deny or, I believe that accomplishes what we're trying to do.
Okay, you got that highlighted? Okay, any discussion on, do we have a second, first of all? Oh, you did second it. I thought I heard something. Okay, do we have any discussion on this? You want to speak to your motion?
I think I already did.
Okay, well, that was short, but we'll take short. Then we'll call on you again. Anyone want to speak against the motion? Seeing none, we're ready for a vote. All in favor of Dave's motion to strike the word "to deny" or, no, the "to" should not be strucken. I think it's just "deny" or was the amendment, correct?
No, it's deny or.
Required to, where it would read, shall be required to approve. Correct, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Okay, any further amendments to 37? Seeing none, we'll move to Rule 36.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
move we strike 37.
Sorry?
I move we strike Rule 37.
You move we strike Rule 37
Yes, sir.
in its entirety. Okay, do we have a second? Fails for lack of a second. Going to Rule 30, are there any further amendments to 37? Seeing none, we'll move to 36. Do we have any amendments on Rule 36? Seeing none, we'll move to Rule 35, Temporary Committee on Credentials. Do we have any amendments? Seeing none, we skip 34A, being the National Nominations Committee. If you recall the color coding in Virgil's last epistle to us, this is one of those rules we're not supposed to touch in presidential years. Yes, Kathy?
Okay, I was going to ask for, okay, if we can't touch it, we can't touch it.
No, this is one of those.
There's some language in there that's bad, but we still can't touch it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, next year. Moving to Rule 34, not 34A. Permanent committees and compositions. Yes, sir, Dave?
I've submitted a motion for 34C, if that would be in order.
Okay.
I had I need a second.
Well, okay. We've got a motion, we just don't know what it is. You got to vote on it first. But it has been moved and seconded, so as
Yeah,
we're getting
this-
it up on the screen, would you like to discuss your motion?
This was a request by a constituent of mine that asked that I put it forward where after the legislative priorities are selected, this would allow for the SREC to add up to 4 additional legislative priorities based upon the 15 that were voted at the convention. And this would take a 2/3 majority vote, and they can't change anything in what was presented at the convention. The example that was given was that number 9 from 2 years ago had to do with the property tax measure that just barely didn't make it. And so this was a request that at a 2/3 vote, the SREC could add up to 4 more. I'm raising this for a constituent Second. Okay, thank you. And I wanted that to be kind of a neutral explanation, but not for or against.
Okay. We have others for or against. Yes,
SD 21
Kathy.
SD 21 Kathy Hager, I speak against because we're asking the body of the convention, the delegates, to come here and vote, and they vote on the 8 of the 15 that they want. And I don't want anyone else to use executive overreach to add something like executive overreach again. I don't think the SREC is a miniature God factor there that they need to add to what the delegates said. I think when the delegates vote on 8, that's the 8, and that's it. As a matter of fact, there is a sentence in there somewhere that says no one may add to or edit the legislative priorities after the state convention sine die, to prevent anybody else from adding to what the delegates voted for. So I'm against the amendment.
Temporary chair, while we have some testimony from the chair.
Correct. Thank you, Josh. I would actually support this with some hopefully friendly amendments. If y'all know the history behind this, there's a long history behind legislative priorities to begin with. I was part of that history. I helped usher that into the rules in the first place. Amy Clark and I tried to craft this rule as best we can. It's still a young committee, relatively speaking. It's still being worked out. Here's the issues. There's 2 issues. One is that we end up, whether it's a fault of the legislative priorities state committee or some other reason, we end up with perhaps a very important issue that, let's say there's poor wording of it, or there's 2 issues that address, for example, pro-life. And that has the effect of people kind of not voting on whether it's a good issue or not. They're voting on which specific language they like the best. That knocks it out of the top 8, or we've seen that happen a couple of times, like in the property tax. We saw that happening in taxpayer-funded lobbying a few years back. It happens the way we're currently set up. So in this case, where we've got what may be a high priority item for most of the grassroots and the legislature, we almost need a safety valve so that the SREC, before the session starts, I don't know if that language is in here, but that they can take care of that kind of contingency. The second contingency, and I'm not sure this is covered by your wording, Dave, but maybe some friendly wording would clean it up. So let's say there's a late breaking issue, like, for example, COVID, and it takes place after or even just before the convention, like it did in 2020, and yet there's not really time to get it all worked out as to how it would be a legislative priority. Again, the SREC should have some safety valve function in order to take care of those kind of contingencies. Personally, I think 4 is too many. I think that 2 or 3 might be the proper number. I'm not in favor of giving the SREC a lot of power over the grassroots vote either. But for those 2 contingencies in particular, without getting into putting all that in the rule, I think giving the SREC 2 or maybe 3 contingencies they could add, even if you want to put a greater than majority vote on the SREC, I think that would be very well advised. So thank you for letting me speak to it. That was for the amendment with some friendly changes, perhaps.
Is there any testimony against this amendment?
We already have 1.
Can I make an amendment to the amendment? or-
I'm checking this one first.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Senate district
exactly
name?
Dave Wilson, ST11. I'm not certain what Mr. Ramsey's amendment was. If it was to change 4 to 2, that is definitely a friendly amendment. some of the other things he said, I'm not sure how he intended to change things, but it may well be friendly.
Mr. Ramsey, be able to?
Part that restricts the SREC to only the legislative priorities that were on the legislative priority ballot. That doesn't handle the COVID situation. It comes up after convention business is done. So that last section, well, the last of the first highlighted yellow section, I think needs to be struck, where the SREC has enough sense to know whether it's an urgent issue or not.
I wouldn't consider that friendly, but you could make a
Okay.
motion.
The 4 has been changed to 2, and we're going to delete, but may not make any changes to the wording of those priorities without objection.
As a friendly comment, I think the intent was to put a period after legislative priorities, 2 additional legislative priorities, period.
Correct. Then the rest of that. Yeah, just the last sentence. No, just where you started, but may not, any changes of the wording. That's also without objection. We're deleting that from the original amendment.
That portion would not be a friendly amendment.
Okay, without objection, we'll do that. SD1, you had an amendment that you wanted to make? Strike it.
You say that was not friendly.
Is that the correct friendly language that we were talking about? Without objection?
No, that it is not friendly.
It is not friendly. Okay.
Changing 4 to 2 is friendly. That deleting the verbiage at the end of the yellow is not friendly. You can make a motion to change it if you like.
Strike what is on the screen after the period.
Whoa. Okay, which period? You're talking about right from that point there?
One that got inserted there.
I guess, yeah, let's see what we're talking about and let them look at it and tell me. Wants to delete that whole, yes, right there. That's what you want to delete, correct? That's your amendment?
Yes, correct.
Okay. You have a second? We have a second. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Briefly, I think I've covered it. It's the SREC is a pretty deliberative body, maybe not as much as this body, but it's very deliberative nonetheless. I think they understand that they shouldn't grab power from the grassroots. They would not do this lightly. I don't think outside of that we need to further restrict them for trying to pick up something that didn't quite make the 8. And there's a related deal that mathematical, depending on how the vote is presented by the chairman of the legislative priorities when they give the report, if people are on average voting, let's say for 7 or 8 of their top priorities, then it is highly probable mathematically that number, let's say 9 or 10, will not get 50%. That's the way the math works out, the way we do the legislative priorities. If, on the other hand, everybody's voting for every one, which has not been recent history, if everybody's voting for every one of them, they'll all get 70 or 80%, if not more. But if, in fact, people are moving toward gaming their vote, if you will, and only voting for 1 or 2 or on average 7, none of those at the end will make that 50% threshold.
Dave Wilson, SD 11. He was wanting to speak. Are you deferring?
Yes.
Okay.
Ronnie Jones, SD 12. Mark, would it be friendly that if we left the wording for the 2 additional, since you already said that you'd be agreeable to up to 3, so give the convention the existing language, but add one more priority that would be under the purview of the SREC,
Without those constraints.
without those constraints.
Yeah, I'd take that as a friend.
Okay, so then we would remove the strikeouts,
Okay.
or, yeah, we would return to the language, and then we would make it a new sentence that would say, and,
Where at?
after that last period of the yellow and priorities,
Huh?
and then we would say, I'm really flying off the handle on this one. The SREC may establish one additional legislative priority that was not presented at convention.
That would work.
So we're still going to type up what you're considering a friendly amendment. And it's still going to be without objection. This is an amendment to the amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
But we
point
need
of
the language.
information, please.
We need the language first. Can we get the language? Can you point of information, wait just a moment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get the language so people can look at it.
Yeah, give me that again. The SREC
Two-thirds. Keep the two-thirds
So we need to repeat that,
by a two-thirds majority.
comma, or the SREC may, comma, by a 2/3 majority vote, comma,
Of those present.
add one additional legislative priority
Okay, at this point, we have run afoul of the time limits, so it's 10 minutes. Do I see anybody that wants to
I move to extend.
extend? Without objection, we're going to extend for another 10 minutes. Okay, a point of information.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. Mike Snyder, SD9. The effect of this, Mr. Chairman,
Kathy, I've got you next.
I have to go. Mr. Chairman. We'll go from 8 legislative priorities to almost necessarily, we'll find one, don't kid yourself, they'll do. So we'll add 1 or we'll add 2. So we'll be up to 10 legislative priorities, is that correct?
Or with this language, potentially 11.
Okay. Do we not already have the most lengthy platform in the United States? Already. And when we start adding these things, I think we had a very compact approach and a very valid one that actually gave people a focus.
You're debating now, so
Okay,
it's no longer a point of information. I'm going to take your...
Can I speak in opposition?
After we get the other folks. Okay, Kathy's next.
I speak in opposition to this most recent amendment because
Dwayne, I got you next.
the way I understood it before that amendment was the SREC would have to pick 2 amendments from something that had been in the original 15. And if we're going to give them that, then they're still limited to that and they can't change any of the wording. But now this lets the SREC completely have one freebie. They can do anything they want to and totally bypass the convention. So
Put it down.
I speak against this amendment.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Wait, say again?
Point of order. There was a motion and a second prior to this friendly amendment, so is the friendly amendment?
There is no friendly amendment at this point. We are adding language. The SREC may, by a 2/3 majority vote, add 1 additional legislative priority. That is the motion right now.
My second was prior to that language being added,
Your second to what?
to the original motion.
The friendly amendment that we were deciding? Okay, well, we found out that it wasn't friendly, so we cut that language.
No, I'm talking about this last sentence that's been added.
Right.
Well, actually, like the change that was added into this.
I'm not advised. I don't understand what you're saying.
Is there a second to the amendment Second?
Yes. Yes. Because it was right here. Yeah. Okay, so right now I've got Kathy, you're up. You're done. Okay, Dwayne.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Can you say your name and...
Dwayne Wright, SD5. The second sentence, once we place the period there, that sentence doesn't read it doesn't make sense at all.
Okay.
After priorities, we put a period, and then we start out with that or not, just out of the blue. It doesn't stand alone as a sentence.
I think that was part of the friendly, and that period probably shouldn't be there. Some of the.
When we started.
So we need to remove, we need to remove the period and put that back.
Yeah.
Will that make sense to everyone?
Yeah,
Okay.
that put it back to the original language, except 2 instead of 4.
Okay. So we're good there? All right, so now we're back to 1 for, we had 1 against. On the last sentence of that first yellow part, the SRC may, by 2/3 majority vote, add 1 additional legislative priority. So I need somebody that is for this amendment. Go ahead.
Leslie Thomas, SD 22. I'm for this, and the reason, and this really affected my family. So COVID happened. My son got the vaccine. He has myocarditis. So, and that did not make the legislative priorities. So the chairman made an RPT legislative priorities for COVID, and he also made one for election integrity, which were not part of the legislative priorities that passed. So we went down, our committee, it was Becky Green was the chair, Robin Armstrong was on this committee, Debbie Duke. So we went down to Austin and we went to the hearings. We were forced down there. And it was at the 4th session that they passed that they could not mandate, the private people, the private entities in Texas could not mandate the COVID vaccine. So I was very thankful that our party stepped up to that. The election integrity one, Debbie Duke was the chair of that. She went down there many times and talked to the legislators, and she finally got it where they took us out of the ERIC system. So that was, so there again, there were this was us doing legislative priorities that were priorities at that time that the convention did not know could have any foresight to make that. So I just say, please keep us, please let the party be flexible. The first time we passed legislative priorities, the first legislative session, we got 0 legislation passed that were our priorities. The second legislative session, we got 0 priorities. The third legislative session, we got two really big ones, the heartbeat bill and constitutional carry. This past one, we got 37, maybe 38 bills that passed that contained our legislative priorities. I'm telling you, we're on fire, we've got momentum, and we can handle this.
Okay, is somebody, Mr. Westbrook, are you against this? Or what is you wanting to say?
Would I be in order to offer an amendment?
No.
No?
No, it's just amended. I got 2 for and 1 against. Are you against?
I'm speaking against.
Okay, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want
David Wilson, SD.
Dave Wilson, SD11.
Thank you.
I want to go back to the spirit of the original, and why I'm speaking against this is that it was structured such that the will of the grassroots is made intact by the fact that the only thing the SREC could add would be things that had already been, quote, blessed, if you will, by the convention and the grassroots. I know the SREC people like to think that they're grassroots, but in actuality, they're one level removed from the grassroots. And so to allow them to generate a legislative priority without, by themselves, I think that goes against the spirit of what's being done here. And the other thing I'd like to remind the body of is that our legislature is perfectly capable of passing legislation, as we know that is not a legislative priority. The example being 2 years ago when number 9 was having to do with property taxes. And in spite of the fact it didn't make a legislative priority, action was taken there. Whether or not it was completely addressed, the priority is another matter. But for that reason, I speak against that, because the spirit of it is to not overrule the will of the convention.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
so we've got 2.5 minutes left on our extension. So I'm going to end the debate on this particular amendment. We've had 2 for, 2 and against, and we've had a point of information. So all in favor of the, all in favor of adding, this is the amendment to the amendment, the SREC may, by a 2/3 majority, vote to add 1 additional legislative priority. That is what we're voting for, okay? SREC adding 1 priority. All minds clear? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion fails. Please cut that. Now we're back to the original motion. We had 1 for, and then we had the amendment, which just failed. So now we can have 1 against the original motion, which is listed up there right now. Are both of y'all against? Or your point of information?
I'm a point of information. I'm a little confused. Then, I mean, if we are accepting 15 priorities, then why do we just take 8? Why don't we just put 8 in there to begin with, and you can erase the rest of it?
No, I'm not advised. Does anybody want to know why?
Or go to the 11, if you want to do the 11.
Mark, can you answer that?
Yes, I actually can address that. In the original legislative priorities, they were actually decided 100% by the SREC. It was a grassroots effort to elevate some items in the platform so that the legislature, you know, hey, we've got some things that are even more important than just the 200 platform planks, 300 this year. That was the original intent. We being Amy and I primarily had a goal of having the grassroots at the convention actually pick these, but we could not figure out a way in the rules, given the supplemental versus permanent rule nature, to do it the first time we had the legislative priority committee. That's why the number has changed a little bit from one session to another. I believe we made this particular change where we had 15 and the delegates got to vote on the top half rounded upward, I believe is the language I recall. That was in 2020, as I remember, and it was tied to the ability to actually do the legislative priority balloting and math to make that happen. We just couldn't get it through rules the first year or so.
Okay, does that clear it up?
Does that make sense?
You're good?
I mean, that was the whole deal originally, and then we got into these COVID and other issues.
Okay, with the body's approval, we ran out of our extended time, so what I'm going to do is going to take 1 against, 1 more for, and 1 more against, okay? Because we had 1 for, 2 point of informations, and you're against, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mike Snyder, SD9. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The way that this is structured is that the SREC would have the ability to take 2 additional legislative priorities from the group that has already been presented. So we've already chosen 8. The grassroots in the convention have chosen 8. And then we come up and this grouping was already voted on by the grassroots and they didn't make the top 8. And this precludes the notion that a COVID emergency event would come about because it would be something new that would be added. We've already voted that down. We're now doing nothing more than giving the SREC the province to go and select their 2 favorite out of the remaining 15, out of what's left after we choose our 8. And I would submit to you, with our platform growing to 300 planks or more, and we have a very compact, what I think is very influential, and I think Leslie pointed it out, that we're beginning to make headway in the legislature with our priorities. We keep doing this gradual expansion of the numbers, and we're going to be right back where we are with our platform right now with a very cumbersome process.
Thank you.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the
The perception that the platform has been continually growing over the years is not accurate.
Okay, well, what's the question? You wanted a point of information? You have a question to present? Okay, yeah, there was no request for that. So I need somebody for. Okay, you're going for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith Nielsen, SD6. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't approve of this amendment, but we have some, we did some rules here today that are going to need some serious looking at by the legislation, and to assure that those rules here today make it to priorities as a safeguard, I think I'm forward for that.
Okay.
Dwayne Wright, SD5. I'd like to speak against it. I too was there at the inception of the priorities. Terry Holcomb came up with the idea, and it was to guide the party in resource allocation. And actually the initial draft had percentages of budget that were going to be attached to each priority based on the rank of the priority. That all kind of went away over time, but that was the initial idea, was that this was going to be an internal guideline for the party to have asset resource allocation for priorities. And words matter. Priority just that's like when you see Barack Obama get up and say, that's my first priority, and then the next clip is, that's my first priority. Now it loses steam in the noise, so I would be voting against this.
Thank you. Okay, so we have exhausted the time on this. Is there a motion to extend the debate? We've had 2 for, 2 against. It looks like the body is ready.
Motion to extend.
Huh?
Motion to extend.
We have motion to extend. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion. Okay. All in favor to extend, please raise your hand. All in favor to take the vote, raise your hand. Okay, we're going to take the vote now. Is everybody clear what we're going to be voting on? The language up there. An affirmative vote will put that language in. A negative vote will take it all out. Are we all ready to vote? All in favor of the language up there, please raise your hand. All against, please raise your hand. So we concur, yeah. We had 9 noes and 16, I'm sorry, 9 fours and 16 against. The motion fails.
Thank you, members. Do we have any other? It was a question regarding platform committee. Okay, what rule number are we on at this point? Going back up? 33. Are we done with 34, first of all? Any other amendments to 34?
Do we need to re-accept it or not?
No, since it failed. Okay, seeing no further, we go to 33. Have any amendments to 33? Seeing none, go back. Wait, did we have one? Leslie?
Rule 33D.
D is in dog. Okay.
Okay, I move that we After the word temporary chairman in each senatorial district caucus, that we strike, provided however, all the way to serve, which is at the end of the sentence.
Correct?
Yeah.
Leslie, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, it's only for SDs that are in one county, and that's not a common thing, and it's, I think it's, I just think it's just treating one certain small type of SD convention differently than the rest of them.
Second.
Anybody speak against that? Any others for? Did we get a second? I guess I should. We did get a second.
Second. Rick Cook, SD 23.
Okay. Any other want to speak for or against? Kathy?
I just, SD 21, Kathy Hager, want to speak for it because it was probably put in there by one person who their whole Senate district was in one county, and so they wanted to make sure that their person who ran their SD convention got to be the SD caucus chair and circumvent what the state chair is doing and every other SD. So I think this makes everybody equal and it doesn't make any exceptions. So I think it's a good amendment.
Okay, ready for the vote? All in favor of striking the language that Leslie motioned to strike, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Okay, any others on Rule 30, what are we on? 30, 33? 33. Any others? Seeing none, we'll go to Rule 32. Certified list of delegates. Anyone want to adjust the certified list of delegates, Rule number 32?
Yes, I do. Rachel Hooper, SD 13.
Yes, Rachel?
I have sent my, do you have it? I move to amend Rule 32 as follows. Two seconds. I think I sent it to your email. Yeah. I apologize. I can send it to...
Mr. Chairman, I want to point out, if anybody else has changes and they want to work on it ahead of time, Ken Leonard, SD 8. If anybody wants to work on it ahead of time, I have extra thumb drives.
Thank you, Ken.
So to preview, I am moving to strike paragraph B and paragraph C, and the rule will begin, hopefully. All lists of delegates and alternates are exclusively for the business of the Republican Party of Texas and may not be disclosed to anyone outside of the Republican Party of Texas, to include party staff, state convention caucus chairs, state convention committee chairs. And then A would remain the same with the last sentence struck. No problem.
Does what's on the screen accurately reflect it now, Rachel?
It does, and I would accept a friendly amendment from Kathy to add temporary caucus chairs and temporary committee chairs if we feel that that's necessary. So state convention, temporary caucus chairs, temporary and permanent committee chairs. Before caucus chairs and before committee chairs. Yes, please.
Okay, would you like to address the motion now?
Thank you. These delegate lists are the information of the Republican Party of Texas and should not be released to anyone outside of our party, in my opinion. As somebody whose information is supposed to be protected by law, I take it really seriously, and so I don't really. My address is protected by law. And so I really want to treat our delegates and alternates information as sensitive. I know someone's going to say, well, you can go on Google and find anything, and yeah, I know because I'm real good at that, but that's not the point. The delegate and alternate information is entrusted into us. For some reason, we had a bunch of rules here that allow the list to go to all these people, and I know people want it to be able to campaign for party offices, but I think all of that should be shut down. And so that's what I'm doing here. And if you want to run for an office, then do it a different way. Go to your county conventions, your Senate district conventions, and be active in the party before the week before convention. Thank you.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Dwayne Wright, SD5. Are we advised on whether or not the sale of these lists by the RPT is a significant revenue source?
I am advised. And it is not a revenue source at all. I mean, it's not, it doesn't cover much of anything, even the staff time to do it, no.
Point of information, would this keep the SREC members from having the list of delegates as well?
Restate that.
Would members of the SREC have access to the delegate list as written?
Rachel?
But I would accept a friendly amendment to add them to include.
That would be good.
They sell it fast.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. David had his hand up first.
Okay.
Point of other information. I was one of the ones involved in writing all the extra fluff in this that she wishes to strike when it was added. The point was to level the playing field between the party member, the party officials who had access to all of this data and the candidates running for office who did not. That was why it was all added. Personally, and I'm not going to go any further because I want to speak against, I'm going to speak against when it, or for when it comes up, but yeah. That's why it was added, just why.
Okay, so we've had 1 for, 1 against, and any others want to speak for?
Point of information, Mr. Chairman. Tim
Yes, sir.
Lambert, SD 28.
Yes, sir.
Could the author address, you're not really saying that this data would not be available. You're saying the party would control that and not give that data up. Would that be correct?
Right. This is not public information.
Point of information.
Yes, Eric?
The Texas Public Information Act makes this public information. Section 1.012 of the Election Code makes it public information as well. The Texas Public Information Act under Chapter 552 Government Code, as applied through Section 1.012, Texas Election Code says that this is an election record because it is anything distributed and required to be kept by law or kept by others for information under this code, and this information is specifically required in Section 174.069, the record of delegates to be prepared by the convention chair of those nominating conventions and required to be sent to the state chair, and so that brings it under the Texas Public Information Act.
And just point of information, the Republican Party of Texas has this year challenged the Public Information Act requests, and has received favorable rulings to protect information from the Texas Attorney General.
Okay, anybody want to speak for this amendment?
Just point of information, SD 17, Caleb.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just wondering, I think we use these databases whenever we do block walks, when I get voter turnout. What's going to happen? Are we going to be able to still reach out to those voters, or we're just not going to be able to use this information to reach out to the voters? Is that what's going to happen?
Rachel?
I don't know what information you use and what your source is.
Talking about, for instance, the GOP data center. I thought everything goes into that database.
The GOP data center is access only. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. So you can apply for access to the Texas GOP data center and receive access to that. That's not what we're talking about here. My intent here is to respect delegates' personal identifying information.
So is that going to be an unintended consequence then at anywhere reaching out not to people that would normally vote, turn out and vote on any election?
I don't think I understand your question. I don't see any impact.
So if someone running for any office, either at the local level or statewide, would this information that delegates provide be able to be available to them, to any candidate running for office?
So right now, if you look at B, there's certain people who can request the list. And so if you want to add those people up above, okay, we can talk about it. But I guess I really don't understand your question. We're talking about delegates, delegate lists. That's what we're talking about.
Point of information.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to ask the author, is the intent here to make sure that anybody who's in the office right now won't have access to the list while somebody who's a candidate for the office will not? Is that one of your goals? Like if somebody says an SRC, they get the list, but somebody running for SRC can't, or for chair and vice chair? I'm just trying to find out what we do with that.
My goal is to protect the information of delegates and alternates. My goal is to not give someone an advantage or, quite frankly, a disadvantage. I see your perspective on that, but if I'm open to suggestions here. One idea to me is what I don't want is our delegate list just going out the door willy-nilly and we have no control over how that information is used. And I don't want the party to be in the business of selling lists. I don't like that. And so,
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to bring us back on track. We're really needing, hang on a second, we've had 7 points of information. Can we have somebody speak for this amendment at this point? Dwayne?
Mr. Chairman, I move to call the question.
Okay,
Dwayne Wright, SD5. I'd just like to speak for this. I agree with the intent of the author to protect that list. I've seen these lists used for a lot of stuff, and most of the candidates have access to I-360 and other data sources as well, so they don't have to scavenge off the delegate and alternate list. And our people complain about the spam emails they get, and then their information comes out to the party, and that seems to ramp up. And so I think the party gets dinged on that. So I support this amendment.
Okay, our time has expired. Do we have a motion to extend time?
I make a motion to extend.
Mr. Chairman, I moved to call the question earlier. I didn't get an answer.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let's take a vote. If this vote fails, we will be going into the vote. If the vote to stop that. If the vote to extend time fails, we'll be going into the vote.
Point of order.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have the friendly amendment in there. Yeah, so we need to do that, Shane, before.
Microphone, please.
Okay, before we vote on it. Okay. Include party staff, state Republican executive committee members.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
Ronnie Jones, SD12. Would that be a friendly amendment since SREC members are actually candidates? And we're trying not to sell the information to candidates?
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
As the SREC, we are responsible with helping to run the convention to a certain extent, communicate to delegates. I've sent out probably, 6 emails in the last 6 weeks that inform the delegates of just different things that are going on. So it does, I can see I can see a point where it would give an advantage to the current SREC member if that SREC member is challenged. And I think that it's, important to consider that. But on the other hand, we need to have the delegate information because we serve the delegates. Those are my constituents. And so after convention, I send out letters, emails, calls to action, all kinds of things to them. And I need to be able to have that information in order to be effective. And so maybe there could be something in there that we put in where, there's no direct campaigning through it.
Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I know
Yes.
that
What is it?
we're out of time. I'm Sandy Kent, SD 18. I don't know if this is a point of information, but not getting the information out to people is already in Rule B. The delegates and alternates, it says, who have positively affirmed that they wish to share information. I think this is a moot amendment.
Okay. Do we want to go to the call the question route or extend time route? Committee's choice. If we call the question, I think it'll take a little longer, but that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of calling the question only, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes clearly have it. We got the friendly amendment language up there at this point? Okay, what we're voting on is striking primarily was it B and C, Rachel? Along with the extra wording, B and C?
Sir, that's right.
Okay, so a vote for this will strike subparagraphs B and C and change the language at the top as per the screen. So go ahead and scroll down and show that part. A no vote will take us back to the current rule. All in favor of Rachel's amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. I think we need to have a hand count. Everybody in favor, raise their hand very high and keep it up. All opposed, same sign. To 8, amendment passes. Thank you, members. Are we done with 31 now? Any further changes to 31? No, that was 30. No, I'm sorry, that was 32. You're right. We'll move to 30. Oh, you need a couple. Let's take a break at this point. We'll try to keep this one to 10 minutes only. Be back here at 9:30 sharp. 30H, as in horses.
H as in horses. My amendment is to strike, parentheses, if applicable, and leave the rest. And I'll speak to that.
Could that be a friendly?
Dwayne Wright, SD 5,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we strike if applicable from 30H. Kathy, would you like to talk to your
Yes, sir.
amendment?
This is one of 3 parts of an effort that I would like to do to discontinue making legislative priorities an afterthought, or if optional, or if you feel like it, but make it one of the standing committees for SD and county conventions, so that we're hearing from the grassroots all the way up to the state convention. Otherwise, the legislative priorities is just really starting here at the convention for all the counties that chose not to do this. So this is part 1 of something that will also continue into Rule 29. And the effort there is just to try to make it not optional, but
As
one
an
of
effort for expediency.
Yes, sir.
Would you entertain permission of the committee to consider 29 changes as well, instead of having to do this one first and then do 29 and consider them all 3
Yes, sir.
together?
That would be great if they would be willing to do that.
Okay, it'll take a 50% vote to do that for this particular amendment only. We won't then go ahead of that. We'll come back to 30 only, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
I guess we need a formal motion to do that because it's committee rules, and we need a 50% vote in order to suspend the rules. Do I have a motion? Okay, we've got the motion, we've got a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Oops, Dave?
I guess point of information, it would appear to me, Mr. Chairman, in Rule 29, I assume that would come in D3. I don't think it's as simple as just striking
Yes,
if
sir.
applicable.
I have extra language there.
Yeah, it's not just a strike. She's just got these 3 amendments that kind of go as a group, so.
So we're voting on the one for 29 that we don't know exactly what it is?
No. Temporary suspension of the rules to allow us to consider all 3 places at once, since they span 2 different rules.
I'm sorry.
Okay, all in favor of temporarily suspending the rules, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, we can do this now, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so the second place that we would make a change if we go forward with this is Rule 29B, number 6, and this would be striking that very first sentence. We'll strike, additionally, at the option of the temporary chairman, the following committee may be appointed. Just strike all that language and then leave the rest of what is there on 29B6. And then on 29D, number 3, it would just start out legislative priorities, and I'd be striking all of the language that's there right now, and I'm trying to mimic the language of the 2 things above it. So it says, this committee shall make recommendations of no less than 1 and no more than 15 legislative priorities to the convention after considering the recommendations from the temporary legislative priority committee. And that language is on a thumb drive up there if you don't already have it. Okay. Okay, so we strike all of that number 3, but then there's a new sentence that we're adding at the end of number 3. Sorry. And Mark has it if you want to look at it while you type.
I just gave it to him.
Okay.
Okay, would you like, while he's typing that in, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think they kind of get the drift. They either like it or hate it. So the idea is just that we're just going to add it to credentials, rules, resolutions, permanent organization nominations. This will just be the 6th standing committee that we'll have in all of our conventions from SD or county level on to state convention. And I think that's enough to save time.
Okay, anyone want to speak against the amendment? Seeing none, anybody else want to speak for the amendment? Yes, David?
fully support this. When we put the legislative priorities in, I tried to get this added and was absolutely refused. So yes, I'm glad to see this finally get put in place and fully support.
Okay, we're ready for the vote? On the changes in both. Do we have it up there yet? Almost. Let's get it up on the screen before we actually take the vote.
So while he's typing, I'll read it again.
Sure.
What he's adding in. This committee shall make recommendations of no less than 1 and no more than 15 legislative priorities to the convention after considering the recommendations from the temporary legislative priorities committee. So after it says 15 legislative priorities to the convention, that's a comma, and then a little a in after. Thank you.
There, is that it? Okay, ready to vote? All in favor of this amendment, which effectively makes legislative priorities a required standing committee of the senatorial districts, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. The motion passes. Thank you, members. Okay, now we're back on 30 for any potential other amendments. Are there any other amendments to rule number 30? Seeing none, let's move to 29. Are there any other amendments now to rule 29? Seeing none, we'll move to rule 28. We'll skip 27A as a state Republican executive committee rule. We'll move to, I believe it's 27, challenges to credentials of delegates. Seeing no amendments, we'll move to 26, seating of alternates at any convention other than a precinct convention. Seeing no amendments, we move to Rule 25, persons admitted and who may address. Again, no amendments. Moving up to Rule 24, minority reports of committees. Seeing none, we'll move to 23. This is the allocation of delegates that I believe Eric advised us goes back to at least the 1950s, if I recall. Maybe longer than that.
Mr.
Do you see any amendments to this? Yes, Sandy.
Yes, Sandy Kent, SD 18, I do have an amendment for Rule 23. It is not changing or striking anything, it's just addition, qualifications for participation. Probably need to bring this to you, sorry. At the very bottom of 23, no, not 23A, underneath E, what they've asked for is to show who and how to participate. For instance, only a voter who is properly elected as a delegate or alternate by their precinct convention is qualified to participate in a county, senatorial, or district convention. There's 3 different ones, and a lot of it is driven by this past convention cycle for some counties, there were people that were trying to teach how to become a delegate, and we're giving them bad information. And because it wasn't specified in the rules, they've written up some different language that could be put in there.
Okay, and this would become a section F or in addition to E?
They have it listed as A, B, and C. I would, after looking at 23, I would add, add the extra ones, F, G, and H. Only a voter, do you want me to write this up?
Yeah, please, please.
Okay.
Okay, with the permission of the committee, while that's being typed, can we go to 22?
Well, you skipped
Any
over
objection?
23A. I had my hand waving the whole time.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I did not see it. I guess, well, we need to take care of this one first on 23 then.
Chairman, and I have one for 23 as well.
Okay. So I'll come to Bruce and then Kristen after we take care of this one.
And the 23A I emailed yesterday to you and to Jerry.
Can you resend it? It might make it a little faster to find. Our email's been distributed as spam to everybody. That was supposed to be funny. That's an engineer joke. That's about as funny as it gets. I'll stick to engineer. Okay, do we have a second to this, which has become F, G, and H on the screen? We have a second? Okay, it dies for lack of a second. Sorry for the delay in getting it up on the screen. Oh, we do have a second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
I think we're
would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. Sorry about that, I'm trying to pull it up as well. Yes, on proposed Rule 23, the Republican Party of Texas has observed a pattern of increasing numbers of individuals who are attending conventions for the first time. There's been an increase in the number of special interest groups organizing training related to the convention delegacy. However, this year's training created confusion among many first-time delegate hopefuls due to either misunderstanding or misinformation about the path from precinct convention to state delegate. This misunderstanding may be due to the lack of specific guidance in the rules. Additionally, some instructors who are unqualified or driven by ideology may have purposefully spread misinformation. Existing rules do not specify a path from the precinct convention to the state convention. And we urge the passage of this proposed rules amendment.
Okay, anybody want to speak against this?
Do I need to read the amendment since it's on the screen?
Sorry?
Do I need to read the amendment?
Well, if that's accurate, I don't.
That is accurate.
Okay. Speaking against, Leslie?
Leslie Thomas, SD 22. In F, it says only a voter is properly elected as a delegate. We have the oath of affiliation that we also recognize. So it's someone who doesn't vote but has signed that oath of affiliation to the party. Would that restrict them from being part of the process?
I think Dwayne has a friendly amendment he's fixing to offer to cover that.
Yeah, Dwayne Wright, SD5. I had a friendly amendment I spoke to the author about.
Okay.
Just some cleanup here would be to strike it to where the first line reads, only a properly elected delegate or alternate. Just strike a voter is, and then the words as a also strike. And then that cleans that up a little bit and removes the ambiguity. And then I would follow through and do the same thing in the next line and the next line.
Don't strike the word a.
Oh, right, I'm sorry. Yeah, just strike the word as. Or yeah, there you go. Good job. And then remove. Only a.
Strike this.
Right. We're good on the. Only. Okay, that should. Is it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
point of
sir.
information
Yes, sir.
over here. In H, is that double negative an appropriate way to display that, or should that be readjusted? Starts with a double negative.
We have a friendly amendment that might make that a little more clear.
Well, I didn't have the words. I was hoping somebody that's wiser than me would suggest something.
A voter?
The A's are inverted. Basically, it's only a properly elected delegate or alternate.
No, he's looking at H. If you change the word no at the beginning to A, that will create,
I was doing cleanup on the first. He didn't do it right. Okay, on F, that first A should not be struck. Okay. And then the next A should be struck. There you go.
Okay, but Dave's point was on H, I believe.
I believe I have the language.
Okay.
As Al offers a friendly amendment, say a voter who has not been elected, a voter who has not been elected shall not be added. I got a double negative again, didn't I?
That's clear. We good with that, Sandy?
A voter who has not been elected shall not be added.
Has that ever happened?
I think the purpose of H was this chairman had people that were fighting them through credentials because they had followed what they were trained on was a proper format, and yet they didn't get to where they wanted to be, so they're fighting it. So they're just trying to clean it up to say you have to do A, B, C to get to state or national.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Just putting any kind of.
Is it, or I guess I should say point of information, is the point of H to do the same thing that's already in Rule 18A, which says no amendments after adjournment? The minutes of any precinct, county, or senatorial district convention may not be amended to add any delegate or alternate or strike any elected delegate or alternate after adjournment of that convention. So do we need H if we have 18?
I believe you're correct, that could be viewed as redundant, yes.
So would it be proper, Chairman, for me to ask that H be taken out of my amendment?
Say that again?
Withdraw H?
Or withdraw the H part from?
Yes.
Yes, we could take that as a friendly.
Okay, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay, so we're left with the additions of F and G. Okay, do we have any further discussion on adding this language, F and G, currently under 23? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of adding this language as on the screen, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. Let's show of hands quickly. Favor, raise your hand. Really high.
I feel like Clint Eastwood, hold them high.
Guys have it. I think I counted 23. Okay. I believe Bruce was next.
Okay, I have a motion to amend Rule 23A. And if you take the lowercase a number 3, it reads, each precinct and county or senatorial district convention delegate and alternate delegate entitlement to the state convention shall be increased or decreased proportionally among all delegations to achieve a state convention potential delegate and alternate delegate roll of no less than 7,500 delegates and 7,500 alternate delegates, and no more than, and then I would strike the 9,000 delegates and 9,000 alternate delegates to the state convention, and add, I was just going to strike, and I thought, you might not go for that, so I'm going to try to have him, but I'm making my own self-amendment. And I'm going to add 80% of the delegates and 80% of the alternate delegates allotted in lowercase a2 above to the state convention. And I'd like to speak to it if I get a second. Did you find my email there?
Let's get it.
Okay, I may not have sent you the right one. Okay, I had two different ones. I guess I sent you the wrong one. So there's additional language. I'll give it to you real quick. After striking the 9,000 delegates and alternates to the state convention, I'm adding 80% of the delegates and 80% of the alternate delegates allotted in section lowercase a number 2 above to the state convention. Okay, so may I speak to it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so the rule has always said we get one delegate for every 300 votes, but we don't. We're always limited to less than that, and it's been 9,000 for several times now. And so I have this big, hairy, audacious goal in my precinct, which I've been talking to him now for a year, that I believe we leave a lot of votes on the table, and our goal is to turn out 3,000 or 4,000 more votes. We have 21,000 voters. That we want to turn out 3,000 or 4,000 more votes in elections like the gubernatorial race. And by doing so, my motivation is if we do that, we might get 10 more delegates to the state convention. Because we should be allotted 35 according to the 300 rule, but we have 22. And we filled all 22 slots and all 22 alternates because we have a lot of people that want to come. And so we don't get that. And no matter what we do to turn out more votes, we're slapped down to the same number every time. And if you're a huge county and you have hundreds of delegates, you may not notice it. You may not even be filling all your delegation. But for a small 80% Republican rural county, we get knocked back pretty good on our numbers. And so right now, we're only electing about 62% of who we could bring, and I'm simply raising that to 80 and making it 80 because 80 is whatever 80 of you vote. So if I get more people out, I'll actually be able to raise my delegate numbers as a motivation to people to get more voters because people like being a delegate. And so that's the reason for my motion.
Okay, well, go ahead. Yes, David?
Point of information, David Westbrook, SD19. I'm confused. 80% of what?
Well, of what you're allotted. For instance, if you plug in the formula, I'm sorry, may I answer that, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
yes,
Okay.
of course.
So if you're in the allotment in A2 above, if we plug in that allotment and it says we get 35 people, we're going to get 80% of that 35.
Because of the 7,500 to 9,000 limit.
But right now, because whatever formula they have that's always at 9,000, we're always at 22. It may be 21. I mean, it might change one, but it's significantly no change.
Okay, I understand. Yes, sir, Dwayne.
Dwayne Wright, SD5. I'd like to speak against the amendment. San Jacinto County has picked up delegates in the past 3, and I don't want to cut that allotment into an 80% deal when I have 100% participation. And it's driven by the gubernatorial vote turnout, not by a cap placed by the state party. There's plenty of open spaces in the large counties. The large counties have talked about cutting this down, I believe, every time I've served on the rules. They've talked about cutting the size down. And the rural counties have actually pushed back against that. We've been able to increase our numbers, our delegation. We started out at 13 when I first became chair, and now we're up to 15. And so, and we fill it, and 100% of them show up. So, and my executive committee is the size of my delegates, so I don't know which precincts chairs to tell them that they can't come. And that's what we'd effectively be doing if we adopted this. So I'll be voting against it.
Okay, we have somebody speaking for, Bruce is the author. Respond to
I
that.
simply want to correct something. This is a huge increase in your allotment. Right now, nobody's getting more about 62% of what you're supposed to get. You're not getting one delegate for every 300 votes. You're getting about 62% of that. If you figure it out, that's all you're allowed to have. I'm increasing that to 80%. So we would all have a potential to have more delegates than we had this time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, David.
SD19, David Westbrook. Is there a reason that this section that he's wanting to change was limited to 9,000? Is there a logic or a reason that it was, that upper limit was placed in the rule to start with?
Yes, the chair has been advised, Josh may know more of the history. The brief answer is it's a matter of convention centers that can handle any more than this. There's only about 4 of them in the state right now. And if we go over this, then basically we won't have a facility unless we go to some kind of hybrid electronic kind of a thing. Is that
We would lose Fort Worth. Right now, we limited it to 9,000 so that we can actually get into Fort Worth. If we go any higher, if y'all come to a convention in Fort Worth, it is very difficult.
Yes.
Okay, but that's just because we're trying to limit or expand it from Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. So we get Fort Worth, we can get in there right now, and we're hoping that this 9,000, maybe other cities will get big enough to allow us to come in there. But if we continue to grow, we're going to outgrow Fort Worth, then we're going to outgrow San Antonio, then we're going to outgrow, well, if we outgrow Dallas and Houston, I don't know where we're going. But we didn't really even have this problem at all until about 15 or so years ago, when the convention just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and everybody's going, yeah, let's get it as big as we possibly can. This will be great. And when I remember many years ago, I said, let's put 9,000 in here as a limit. And oh man, they took me to the woodshed. But now it's part of the rule, and now people are seeing why that is, and that's just so that we can actually have a convention. If it gets bigger and bigger, as our population grows and more people get voting, we simply won't be able to have a convention. We need to keep this rule in here, and hopefully these other cities will grow into us.
Yes, Dwayne?
I understand the cap. I thought it was driven strictly by the gubernatorial vote for our assigned delegates. How are we getting more delegates every time then?
Expanding population.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but if there's this percentage cap that's floating out there somewhere, how come it hasn't capped us?
Y'all are growing faster.
Oh, then the
I'm
cap.
just taking a guess, yeah.
The rest of us give up delegates to you.
Is that math that's used to make the proportional changes listed somewhere?
I don't believe it's listed specific to convention centers, is it?
I think we use Ryan's data, that he comes up with those calculations and gives it to the party. And that's how we make that allocation. We just flow it from the state down to each Senate district or county.
Okay.
Is that data public?
It's just math.
Like the calculations, what I'm getting at is like, it sounds like people might need or want to know what the calculations are.
Rick Cook, SD 23, it's literally just math. You take however many the allocation would be if you take the gubernatorial vote, divide by 300, and then you ratio that number to get it down to 9,000. So you increase the 25 so that the 4.4 million or whatever they got last time divided by 300 gets you 14,000. You ratio that 25 up so that that number becomes 9,000 or less. So I can say it's just math.
Yep. Okay, any further discussion on this? So this would, if we struck this, based on what Josh advised us of, effectively take Fort Worth out of the locations and leave us with only 3 at this point. Okay. Everybody ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of Bruce's amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. I think the noes have it. Thank you, members. Who else was next? I forget. I think it was it Kristen? Sorry? No, we had somebody else that was, it might have been Kristen. Why don't you go ahead? Did you have an amendment?
For Rule 23.
For Rule 23.
but not, are there any other amendments for 23A? I do not see any at the moment. Okay, let's go to 23.
23A. So at the very end, Secretary and I went ahead and email you the language, but I can read it again. Resolution, I'm just going to add another sentence at the very end. Resolutions submitted by delegates shall be referred by the chairman to the temporary or permanent resolutions committee members for an up or down vote.
You want to, well, he doesn't have it. Get it up there.
This applies to county and Senate district conventions.
Okay, do we have a second while he's typing it? I don't hear a second. Okay.
Resolutions submitted by delegates shall be referred by the chairman to the temporary or permanent resolutions committee members for an up or down vote. By the chairman to the temporary or permanent resolution committee members for an up or down vote.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to speak to it and maybe also address how that's different than what's in B?
Sure.
Oh, we do need a second, yeah. Second, we got seconds. Go.
So I've chaired the resolutions committee in my Senate district convention. And I, as the chairman, discuss with the committee members every resolution that a delegate submits. We give a chance to be heard to every delegate who has any concern. What this amendment does here is gives every person, every delegate a chance to be heard. And it does not give the chairman any discretion to not bring up any resolutions to be discussed.
Point of information.
Who was that?
21.
Yes, Kathy.
Just to the author, are you saying that there would be no debate or no ability to amend when you say for an up or down vote?
So I'm saying that every resolution should be debated, should be heard. And it would not be to the discretion of the chairman to accept or reject any other resolution submitted.
Chairman of the convention, correct?
This applies to the Senate district or county conventions, resolutions committee. So the rule right now states that any resolution should be referred to the appropriate permanent committee, permanent or temporary committee. What my amendment does is the resolution should be taken by the entire committee and not be up to just one person, the chairman, to decide whether submit that resolution for discussion or not.
Okay. Any other comments? We're looking for an against at this point.
Dwayne Wright, SD5, I'd like to speak against this. Even part of this system is when we send our resolutions upstream to the RPT, they bundle. And the reason why is because you might have 20 delegates give you the exact same resolution, and this is, according to this, we were required to vote on every single one of them, even the duplicates. So I wouldn't support this the way it's written.
This doesn't mean that, and I had that before, different people submit the same resolution, And since we already discussed it, we just give the delegate a chance to be heard on whatever resolution they submit. So even if they submit the same resolution, even if different delegates submit different resolutions, the resolution gets heard by the entire committee.
By the committee?
By the committee.
Not the full convention?
Right, that's correct. It should be this is for the committees, whether it's the temporary or the permanent committee, at the county level. Again, this does not mean that if any resolution is submitted more than once, which happens, I've seen that, and the committee had already talked about that resolution. It just gives each resolution a chance to be heard.
Okay, do we have others speaking for the amendment? Yes, sir.
Well, I have a potentially friendly amendment to maybe help his intent.
Okay.
At the very beginning, I put an all resolution, so all resolutions submitted by delegates shall be referred to the chairman, to the temporary or permanent resolution committee for disposition.
Or what was that after?
Disposition. So get rid of the an up or down vote. If he accepts that as a friendly amendment, that might help.
I agree with the amendment.
Is that acceptable to the author?
Well, actually, I would get rid of the by delegates too and just say all resolutions submitted shall be referred, because that would add the precinct convention ones as well.
I think non-delegates can also submit.
Okay, so another friendliness, all resolutions submitted by delegates or precinct conventions shall be referred.
No, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, David.
Point of information. Does this particular rule apply only to the SD convention and resolutions submitted at the convention from the floor after the permanent committees are appointed?
Want to address that?
I'll speak to my friendly amendment if they want.
Okay. Okay, speak to your friendly amendment, but I don't think we've established it's friendly yet.
Okay. Okay, maybe he should go back to his intent then. Okay, my intent was to say all resolutions submitted properly to the convention would be submitted to the resolution committees, temporary or permanent, for disposition, so that there would be no blockage by some individual preventing the information that came from the precinct conventions or the delegates or alternates to the Senatorial District Convention or County Convention from being considered by the resolution committee.
Okay.
That was the intent.
David, we've had one from you. Let's go over here to Mike.
I need to speak against.
Oh, you're
Mike
gonna
Snyder,
speak-
SD9.
Okay.
I speak in opposition. In our SD convention, we have to bundle. We have hundreds upon hundreds of resolutions, and there is no way we would not be able to address every single one and have every resolution. We bundle them just like they do at the state. And to do this is really putting a huge burden on the senatorial district conventions. I urge my fellow delegates to vote against this.
Okay. Now we're back to any speaking for the amendment. Seeing none, we ready for a vote? All in favor of the amendment to the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. Takes us takes us to the original highlighted in yellow amendment. All in favor of that amendment,
Mr. Chair.
signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. Okay, the amendment fails. Any more there's on Rule 23, an additional Rule 23 amendments? Seeing none, we'll move to 22. Chairman's responsibilities, I believe this is under the heading of precinct conventions, if I remember right. Any amendments to Rule 22? Seeing none, we'll back up to Rule 21, the agenda for precinct conventions. Seeing no amendments, we'll go to Rule 20.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Rule 20, Leslie Thomas, SC 22. I move that we strike everything from where it says party affiliation may be established. I move that we strike everything after party affiliation, strike everything after party affiliation.
In the fourth line,
In the fourth line, all the way to law, prescribed by law. And add in, I guess it's not striking, it's substituting, and add in after party affiliation, add in is established by Rule 46. So party affiliation is established by Rule 46, or is
As per Rule 46.
yeah.
I think that's just a cleanup.
I'm going to help her again. The shall have established party affiliation in the previous sentence could just have in accordance with Rule 46 added. So
you
the
wouldn't be
party-
striking all of that. Party affiliation may be established in accordance with Rule 46.
Yeah, so shall have established party affiliation in accordance with Rule 46. And so strike the party affiliation established by and just say in accordance with.
Leslie, is that friendly?
Shall have established party affiliation. Okay, okay, party affiliation is established by Rule 46. No, I can't have it because I have to have the end of rule. So yeah, that's right. And then it goes to provided the person has not been disqualified under this rule or rule number 11.
Wasn't friendly, never mind.
That's good, that's good.
Yeah, point of
Yes, Suzanne.
information.
Suzanne.
Shouldn't we use the same language as in the closed primaries for consistency for the qualification? The way to establish the affiliation?
I believe if we refer to that, that would be sufficient, but, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Nathan Joy, Senate District 16. Can I offer an additional friendly amendment to this that I think also kind of ties in with Rule 46? In the first sentence, towards the end of the, well, I don't know, it says must be a registered voter, replacing voter with Republican.
Leslie, is that included in your intent? Okay. That's friendly. Are we ready to vote? David had his hand up, I think a couple others. David,
Friendly
Eric.
amendment to substitute the word affiliation with membership? No? No, it means you're a member of an organization.
Okay, yeah, who was after that, David? No, over here.
Dave Wilson, SD 11. I don't believe even with Rule 46 that we have registered Republicans. I'm just not sure that's proper. When you do your voter registration, I don't think you check a box saying I'm a Republican. Not yet. And so you become Republican by affiliating. We right now have, if you don't vote in the Republican primary, you have an oath of affiliation. I don't see what we're missing with the way it's currently written. So I'm
Okay.
speaking against.
Okay, so do we want to unaccept that as a friendly?
I'm not tied to it. Yeah, we can change it next convention. We can embrace our republicanism next.
Okay, Eric, I believe Eric had a,
I want to speak in opposition to this amendment. Conflicts with Section 174.004 of the Election Code. Says political party may not impose eligibility requirements in addition to those prescribed by this title for serving as a delegate to a county, senatorial district, or state convention held under this code.
okay. Currently, unless Leslie has changed Nate's friendly, I think we're looking at all of the blue and the yellow at once.
So, yeah, just strike the, so I'm not viewing Republican as a friendly at this time.
You're not referring to it.
Registered voter.
Okay.
Right now, there's not a process to register voters. In 46, there is, so it's controlling, and when we get that established, then we can put that in there. I mean, it really doesn't make any difference, right? All we want to do is have it sync with 46. So party affiliation is established by 46. That's all I want to do, sync it.
So if that's not friendly, do you want to reintroduce that as an amendment to the amendment? Okay, it's been withdrawn. Now we're back to the yellow, is established by Rule 46. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. I think we better count. I think the noes had it, but let's count. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hands high. Motion carries 22 votes. I guess you ayes need to speak up a little bit more. So the nays like to be loud, I'm advised. Okay, do we have other amendments to Rule 20? Seeing none, we'll move to, we won't move to 19, that's permanent state executive committee rule. We'll move to 18A. Seeing none, we'll move on to 18.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
SD 21, Kathy Hagler, I have an amendment. It's on the piece of paper over there.
to 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think this is just an oversight. This rule was probably written in a gubernatorial year, so I would just want to add a sentence to the beginning that would say, except in presidential election years, in the case of congressional district caucuses, and national party business, comma, and then finish. The convention will continue to enjoy its full strength. I'm just thinking that we need to embrace the one man, one vote rule for congressional business, or for national party business. And then comma and make that a little t.
Okay, would you like to speak to this, or
I think
is that
it's pretty
enough?
simple. I think it's just an oversight that we don't have it for presidential years, that's all.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Anybody want to speak against that? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of Kathy's addition to Rule 18, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Any others on Rule 18? David?
I didn't have a question on Rule 18. I had a point of information on Rule 19.
That's
how does
respectfully
it,
out of order at this point, but with the committee's indulgence, no objection. Go ahead, David.
I was just curious how the SREC has the authority to bind this body when this body is the one that establishes the SREC.
That's actually out of order. That's set by, I believe Eric had a part of actually putting this in place originally. Eric, would you like to answer that?
That's set by state law. So the election code specifies that there are certain rules that can only be changed by the state executive committee versus by party rule.
Yes, Randy?
As you remember, we were both on the SREC when this happened. A lot of these things are things that you can't actually do in the biennium because they are things that have to be done, like setting venues and that type of thing for the next convention.
Does that answer it, David? Okay, let's go back to, I believe we were on Rule 18 now.
And point of information, I'll give you a little bit of history on this.
I don't believe we need that.
You don't care?
It's already
Yeah,
10:30.
Let's go.
Rule 18, voting strength, number of delegates. Do we have any amendments?
Mr. Chairman, on 18, Sandy Kent, SD 18,
Yes, ma'am.
as per Virgil, he would like a comma after IE.
Is that one of the 15 we adopted?
No, he just saw it.
He just added that?
He's texting us.
A comma after, we can clean that up in editorial.
Okay.
Just text that to me.
Okay.
Rule number 17, debate. Any further amendments? Rule number 16, previous question. These are fairly long-standing rules. Doesn't mean they can't be perfected, but they have over a number of years. 15A, distribution of literature. Seeing no further amendments, Rule 15, identification being required. Seeing none, on to 14, open meeting and right to testify. Yes, Leslie?
Leslie Thomas, SD 22. At the very end, an official video recording or live stream may be made of all general sessions and any meetings of any committee of the state convention, whether it be in temporary or permanent organization. I would like to add, an official video recording must be made of all pre-convention temporary committee meetings. Like, just push the play, the record on the Zoom meeting.
Like our pre-work that we did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to speak
And
for the?
Wait, and if it's, and to be and posted on the RPT convention site.
Mr. Chairman, point of information, please.
Yes, sir.
To the author, Leslie, do you have any idea how many terabytes you're committing us to in the storage of these videos?
Well, I'm thinking you upload them to our YouTube channel.
Well, again, you have to buy that space. I was asking a question because it's a very expensive storage proposition. How many terabytes are we going to allow to be consumed by all of these videos?
Well, then they cannot meet at those because they're meeting ad hoc, and we need the delegates need to be able to be exposed to that information and the process.
I can actually address your question somewhat. The longest Zoom call that we did, I'm not saying that's as long as maybe some of the other committees, but it was about 9 gigs. So it's significant, but not terabyte kind of level.
Well, not in the beginning, it's not.
Yes, Dwayne.
Dwayne Wright, SD5. I'd like to speak against this.
Okay.
Well,
first we need to have Leslie actually speak for her language. Her. Oh, we need a second. We have a second?
Second.
Second. We have seconds.
Oh,
Okay.
that sounds like a pity second, which means this is not going to pass.
Okay, we got a strong second. Okay, Leslie.
For the first time, we had pre-convention temporary committees meeting, and many of the delegates weren't aware that they were happening, and they were asking me where they could go find copies of them, and they were saying they were during their work time, or they couldn't get into them or find them. So I'm just saying, we have the RPT YouTube channel. Put them on that for just a small amount of time, maybe for a week, so that they can get caught up, and then delete them.
Okay, Dwayne against?
Yes, Dwayne Wright, SD5 against. As we've seen in San Antonio, Texas, with our Wi-Fi that capped out just a while ago, and the fact that we've having to tether our own personal phones, and the fact that I had no internet during the time, so I was not able to attend the Zoom meetings that we did have. It says it must be done. Saying it must be done with so many variables and all the technicalities, and the fact that we're all here right now and we can't even use the internet, I just can't go along with that.
So would a friendly amendment along the lines of should be attempted, or y'all pick the language, would that solve that?
Or may?
May? Leslie? She accepts it. Okay, friendly amendment. Change must to may.
That was an adversarial.
Point of information, Mr.
Overruled. Okay, we ready to vote?
Point of information.
All in favor of Leslie's amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. I think the nays have it.
Based on past experience, I demand a hand vote.
Okay. Let's do a hand count. That's what you requested, not roll call, right? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand very high. Without objection, Leslie withdraws her hand count request.
That was a beat down. That was a beat down.
Okay, now we're on to Rule 13, Convention Quorum. Any amendments to this? Seeing none, we'll move to Rule number 12, Resolutions Authorized, No Unit Rule. Seeing no amendments, we'll move to 11, Convention Officials Listed in the challenge.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, sir.
I have an amendment to 11A that I've given to the secretary.
You got a copy?
On the flash drive, orange one. While he's loading that up, I will tell you I've added language to the end of 11A and says the parliamentarian should not be a delegate or alternate to the convention. If a parliamentarian is a delegate or alternate to the convention, the parliamentarian shall not be allowed to participate in debate, make motions, or vote. And there it is. I'd like to speak to my motion. Oh, after a second.
Okay, do we have a second? I think it's getting late, Dave. I do not see a second. Oh, we got a second. That was a pity second again, right? Okay, Dave, you want to speak to it?
Well, we have an occasion in my county where our parliamentarian is also a member of the body and frequently participates in debate, makes motions and votes, and it is very difficult for a parliamentarian to remain objective when he actually has a position in things. And so, again, I don't want to limit it where a parliamentarian can't be a member of the body, but when he is, I want to make it very clear, because we ran this issue all the way up to the RPT and could not get relief from that. And so it can be an issue. It was an issue. This clarifies it. And that's my statement. And I know it's getting late.
Okay, we've had one for. Do we have any speaking against? Yes, sir.
SC 21, Kathy Hager, you calling me?
No, I said yes, sir.
I think that means me, I'm not sure, but Rick Cook, SD 23. I am not a registered parliamentarian, but I do act as a parliamentarian at senatorial district caucuses, and you're not being much of a parliamentarian if you're participating. If you have a chair who has a parliamentarian who's who is participating, he should pick a new parliamentarian. Because he doesn't have a parliamentarian, he has somebody who's in the delegation being a delegate. So I think this should be unnecessary.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Do we have anybody else speaking for the amendment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the...
It was a point of information. I suppose this applies to the state convention. So does that mean for every single caucus, every single meeting, we should have somebody who is not even a delegate stay here all week at his own expenses just to be the parliamentarian?
That's kind of the way it would read, yes. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All in favor of Dave's amendment signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay?
Nay!
I think the nays have it. Are there any other amendments for Rule 7? I'm sorry, did I say 7? Yeah, 11.
on the mind.
Going to Rule 10. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, point of information, what is your estimated time that we have to finish all of the business before us?
12 minutes, if we hurry.
I mean, all the way through Rule 1.
Yes, 12 minutes if we hurry.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, sir. No. Okay, we're on Supplemental Convention Rule 10. Seeing none, we'll go to this. This is a convoluted one. I believe if you wanted to, we could modify B. I believe A is a SREC rule. Any amendments to B or the last part of A even? Seeing none, we'll go to...
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
8A,
reconsider Rule
but-
8N.
Sorry?
Ronnie Jones, SD 12. I'd like to move to reconsider Rule 8N, as in November.
Oh, we're just getting there, okay. We're passing through the SREC. Okay, now we're on 8, so...
I'd like to make a motion to, in a couple of different places.
Well, hang on a second. Strictly speaking, that would require committee setting aside our schedule. We could do this tomorrow, after we've gone through all the way back to Rule 1, but part of what we adopted was we're going to go backwards except for 46, 44, and 8. So we need to actually wait till tomorrow to take that up, unless the committee wants to take it up tonight.
Okay, so we're good.
Okay?
Do it tomorrow.
Okay, we'll move on then to 7.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of edits. I would like to strike Rule 7C and D.
7C and 7D. The motion is to strike.
John Boucher, SD4, I forgot to say for the record. I'd be happy to speak to that.
So you're not addressing A, B at all, and only striking C and D, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you like to speak for?
Yes, County Executive Committee may authorize voting to fill precinct chair vacancies via mail or email. I had this discussion with Rinaldi because this is an area where we sought clarification for under RPT rules. It is a permissive rule to say a County Executive Committee may do something. You could say that with anything, but the county bylaw should handle those sorts of issues. And as for D, for any party meeting where online voting is permitted, a vote from an online participant shall have the same force as a vote from an in-person participant. That seems kind of obvious. I mean, we don't have 3/5 voting. It's already, if it's an online authorized meeting, it's a 1-for-1 anyway. So I just think this is an extraneous rule, and both of these should be struck.
Okay. Anybody want to, there's second by Dwayne. Anybody want to speak against John's amendment? Kathy?
SD 21, Kathy Hagler. I know that when I lived in Harris County and I worked for the office, we could not get a 50% quorum at that time. We never could, and we were filling vacancies only by a 50% quorum. We had a lot of vacancies we could never fill because we couldn't get a quorum. Once we got this rule implemented, we allowed people to fax in and mail in their votes for precinct chairs, and we were finally able to fill the vacancies. So I'm just saying C is good for Harris County. I'm not there anymore. Y'all do what you want to do, but it's good for them.
John, you're not in Harris County, correct?
I am in Harris County.
Okay.
So, yeah, being in Harris County, they changed the law from 50% to 20%.